Hello, beautiful light-filled souls. Thanks for tuning in. Today's guest is Caprina Brown. She is someone who studied with Barbara Brennan, but beyond that, she has had her own connection with divinity, that healing light that changes everything in our paths. And she has traveled widely, studied healthcare, Sanskrit, been to India, and many fascinating places. Most of all, she tells the story of her own connection with divinity and healing and what she brings to others in the form of energy healing. But may you be blessed, and let's jump in. Well, Caprina, I'm so glad that you're on my show, and I'm so glad that I met you at IANDS and you want to share this energy of your experience. And that's what really hits me is that any out-of-body experience, any near-death experience really connects us to something far beyond ourselves. But your story is fascinating to me because it began in a hard way. I mean, like a really challenging way. So I'd like you to just tell us a little bit about your challenges that led to your awakening.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And thank you for inviting me. I appreciate that. It's really a privilege and honor to be with you. Um, this is about over 20 years ago. Okay. So I was in my early 30s. I was uh, obsessively, passionately um, on a spiritual path. I was not uh, I was literally consciously trying to awaken. I had met someone that I recognize from many lifetimes as someone who had the mantra initiations that I wanted, that we had work to do together in this life. We were both kind of each other's teacher in a way. And so he was fluent in Sanskrit and he had a photographic memory. So he had studied all of Vedanta, all the Vedas, all the Upanishads, all the tantric texts in India, and he knew them by heart. I mean, it was like amazing. And so I studied Sanskrit and started chanting and meditating all these sacred texts because they're vibrational. So in the Sanskrit language, um, the name and the form aren't separate. So when you say Shanti, which means peace, I think most Americans have heard that. It's not the concept peace. It's literally Shanti is the vibration of peace. And if you can merge with that and become the peace, it activates, you become the peace. It's not separate. So names of God are the vibration of that form of the divine, and it kind of happens in you, or it vibrates out in you. So I was totally into that, super thinking I'm on the right path. And it was the right path. But I had some kind of a belief that that meant you were protected from life, that meant you don't get sick, bad things don't happen. I was naive. so at the same time, I started, so after a few years of intense spiritual practices, meditations, and we call it tapas. It's like burning away the illusion through these ways of resonating with truth. Um, I started having weird symptoms arise in my body, some neurological symptoms, and weird sensations. And I also had some major my back went out, my low back went out. So I went to a neurologist and had a bunch of MRIs and blah, blah, blah. And I thought they were just going to tell me like herniated disc and, spine is causing some of these weird uh, problems that I was having. But instead, they scanned my brain and my spinal cord, and they diagnosed me with, I don't say what it is because I don't want to give it power. But they diagnosed me with a very serious condition, a disease that has a neurological aspect as well as an autoimmune aspect. It runs in my family. My sister has it. I have a family history of it. And everybody in my family has some kind of autoimmune problem. So, anyways, that was extremely, it completely threw me. Like from my naive place. I mean, I'm not going to call it naive, just like innocent, not, place. I thought, I felt betrayed by God. Like you want to know the truth, you want to like experience your true nature, you're sincerely, really dedicating all this time. And then I'm diagnosed with this disease that Western, conventional medicine says, well, prepare for a life of disability. And there's medication. There's better meds now for this, but back then there wasn't. You're going to have lots, you can take some meds and it will slow down the process, but you're going to have lots of bad side effects, and it's $30,000 a month for the medication.
Wow.
It's insane. And this was 30, almost 30 years ago, 25 years ago when they said this. So I just want to say, like, I was having some physical problems, but it was more like this impending doom, of, this is just going to be your story. And because I had been so immersed in kind of reading spiritual texts and spiritual life and trying to embody the truths, I just wasn't willing to accept that that was going to be my story. But I didn't, but I was so sad and so scared and deeply grieving. I mean, I think I cried every day for a year. And I did the
Oh,
same thing when my sister was diagnosed. I mean, she was 15. I was just a few years older than her. And I mean, I remember like crying for months for her, just so quiet. And I didn't show her, but just, I'm sure anybody who's had a profound, life-changing diagnosis knows what I'm talking about. I took the medication for a year. Um, and I don't have anything against Western or conventional medicine at all. If it had something to offer me, I would have continued, but it was just, I took it. So my point is, I'm like kind of taking it. And I am still meditating and doing really intense spiritual practices, to try to find the root cause of this condition, because from my perspective back then and now, the root cause is always not physical. It's always in consciousness. Consciousness is first, and then the physical manifests. The physical is also consciousness, but it's subtler levels of our consciousness.
did you
So,
think, since it runs in the family, that there might be generational trauma to release, or did you think along those lines, or do you think now?
well, I see it that way in a way now, as a thread of consciousness that this incarnation is here to um, bring awakening to it. There's so many levels to it,
Yeah.
which I can get into if you want to. But the main thing is, I started to explore my own consciousness, and I really started to be led. I had already experienced all these beautiful divine synchronicities, that were undeniable. The divine is here with me. And I had been feeling that anyways, and having beautiful experiences, I had a couple of like light experiences of where the light would come to me in a dream and completely like call me to it, and then I would like poof into it, and then like pop awake in ecstasy. Yeah, these like beautiful like light dreams, awakening dreams. I kind of got led to going to healers. I was reading, I got led to some books by Dr. Barbara Brennan. I eventually studied with her. She's one of the most gifted healers in the Western hemisphere of the 1900s and early 2000s. She's passed away now, but she founded a school for awakening and energy healing. The school is called the Barbara Brennan School of Healing. I'm one of the teachers at her school. I run the program here in Minnesota. There's several locations all over the world. But before that, that was kind of part of my destiny. So like,
Yeah.
when when you asked about like generational trauma, like I had a longing when my sister was diagnosed. She was 15 and I was 18. And you don't usually get diagnosed, and symptoms don't come usually when you're that young. It's usually in your 30s. So something in me wanted to help cure her. Like I had that longing, like I'm gonna go study something in medicine to help that, and I did. I had started out being in school for physical therapy. I had studied the body and done all this, all the pre-physical therapy classes. And then I had volunteered in cardiac rehab in a hospital, and I was getting ready to apply for physical therapy school, but I didn't like it because I watched people get up after heart surgery unchanged, that they still would get up and that there was something deeper that wasn't healed. And I don't mean that with judgment, but it was like I would help people put on their compression stockings after heart surgery to take your walk for the first time, you're sore. And people, not everybody, but some people would want to go outside and have a cigarette after that. And I used to smoke, so I completely understand cigarette addiction. I don't have any judgment about that at all. But I'm like, there's something deeper that needs to be healed. Otherwise, the body's just going to be, under assault again. And there's a deeper need. And so I kind of felt like there's a thread here, and I'm part of it. I mean, I kind of had that already a little bit, but it didn't change my feeling extremely desperate and extremely betrayed by God, and also extremely kind of determined in a way to just kind of surrender to the unknown and let myself be led. And that's how I did go. I wanted to get healing from Barbara Brennan. She wrote 3 books that are bestsellers in, I don't know, many over 20 languages. And she was really popular in the 80s and 90s. But I wanted to get a healing from her because something in her teachings was really, it really resonated with me. It's really about awakening the divine within you and returning to the truth of who you really are. She was kind of saying it as a Western healer instead of like spiritual books. And so I did go to a workshop that she taught, and in the workshop she gave me a healing. She actually gave a healing to the whole room. There are a few hundred people of us, and so we all kind of got a healing. But what I experienced was my intention with her was to heal the root cause of this disease that's starting in my body. It's like sitting in the center of the front row, holding that intention. And this is the first time I'd ever really had a healing. What I experienced was an inner experience of my mother walking into my heart and me walking into hers, and both of us completely forgiving each other for everything. And that healed a lot. That's when like going off the medication started happening, and things like that. That healed a lot. But I still knew that was one layer of my consciousness. That wasn't. I just felt like there was more that I needed. I really wanted to experience the divine. Instead of just looking at a picture of the ocean, I wanted to swim in the ocean. Because I thought that's the only thing that heals. So I ended up, I wanted to go study with Barbara Brennan at her school, but I thought it's too much of a time commitment. It's too expensive, which is kind of what a lot of people think about it. It actually is worth every penny, and it completely changes your life. But I didn't go yet. I went later. So what I did was I took all these other classes and all these other explorations of consciousness. And that's what led to this awakening experience that I'm about to share. As I started working with hypnosis, different techniques to enter into different states of consciousness. And so I was doing this training that I wasn't really into. It's Michael Newton's Between Life training. Have you heard of that?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So this, it's wonderful work. I can do that. I'm certified in all different types of regression, and I completely understand its value now. But at the time I was like, that's not going to God. That's going to like a stage of consciousness, but I want to go to where it really heals. And so I was doing this training that I wasn't fully into, but I was going. Something made the kind of this impulse to go. So the night before the training, I had a dream that I was in the ocean, and I was looking for the person that had this disease, and she wasn't there. There was just her clothing. So there was clothing that had shown she had been there, and her clothes were there as like the clue, but she was gone. There was no, I knew in the dream there was no finding her. She was gone. Like this was, there's just this kind of phantom clothing thing that she had been there, but she's gone now. So when I went to the training, I was carrying this, like, something in me is healing. That was important to me. And it was so interesting because this was a hypnosis training, and the woman who was leading it was also trained in dream interpretation. And so, of course, out of the blue, out of context, she says, before we start, I realize you guys are here for the training, but I want to do a dream interpretation first, and then we'll do the training. So, and she goes, so did anybody have a dream last night? I'm like, hello. This is what I mean. Like the outer and the inner
Yes.
were completely in sync. And it wasn't making sense, but it was completely making sense. And so anyway, so she interpreted my dream, and we did this process, and I just knew, I'm like, that's a really important sign. So then, then she trained us in the technique. And just for those of you who don't know about hypnosis, this type of therapeutic hypnosis, it's really a deeply relaxed, focused awareness. And then the person that's guiding you gives you a suggestion, and then it happens in you. Like your critical left brain kind of is a little bit less of a filter, and it helps you to access deep knowings and memories that are deeper than just the conscious mind. So the person who was regressing me, where we were at, we were practicing. So you get trained, they teach you and demonstrate and blah blah blah, and then everybody goes into their own little private room with a partner, and you go through this you practice on each other. So I was the client first, and my partner was the hypnotist first. And so she had taken, so I was taken into this deeply, deeply relaxed, quiet, focused awareness. So it was just deep and still and quiet. And the first suggestion that she gave me was the only suggestion she gave me. And it was, go to where you were before you were born. So that's when this experience started. So what happened was, have you heard of Spurinam, the cosmic vibration? So in Sanskrit, it's called Spurinam. It's just this cosmic vibration. So at the very tip of my toes, this cosmic, ecstatic vibration started throbbing, and it burst as the sun. So it's not a literal sun, but it was, the words that I use is, it was as if the sun started vibrating and rising in my body. But it didn't start at like the base of my spine. So people are like, oh, Kundalini. I'm like, this is like so huge. It's not, don't limit it to calling it that, because it's bigger than that. So Kundalini is Shakti. That is amazing. This was a remembrance. I don't even want to give it a word. But there's the sun, the cosmic vibration, and the light of impersonal, universal, perfect love started vibrating at the very tip of my toes, and just went up my legs, up into my torso, up through all of my chakras, through every organ and gland. And it's just, I'm becoming this living cosmic vibration of perfect love. And it stopped in my heart. I shouldn't say stopped, it paused in my heart, like right in its heart chakra right in the center. And I just laid there, and I was weeping, just weeping from the light of love that I am, that you are, this cosmic, impersonal, complete, perfect love. I knew myself as that. And it healed every betrayal that I carried in my heart. It carried every part of the healing of every wrong that I'd ever felt was done to me. It purified. It purified my entire being. And I just laid there and wept. It was like being completely held in love and as love. I knew this is this is me. This is
And,
me.
and so many
And
near-death experiencers like me go, yeah, that's the God experience. That's the merging with God.
well, there's that exactly, but then this is all God. This is all God, and then it continues. It continues up through me, through my head, and it keep like the sun just kept rising, and then as it kind of like lifted out of my body, I was still with it. I my consciousness was I didn't leave my body, but at this point, I'm having a completely inner experience. So I started seeing in my inner vision um, this ocean of light. And I watched the sun rise up out of the ocean and lift above it. And I entered into ecstasy. So the feeling of love was this was, I would call it beyond love in a way. It was ecstatic wholeness. But I'm in like uh, ecstasy. I want to starts with an I can't find words for it, but I lifted above the causal waters. You might have heard of the causal waters. And my consciousness literally lifted up as this light out of the causal waters. And I knew this ocean of light, this ocean of consciousness is the entire manifest creation. It is all planes of existence. It is fully penetrated by the divine is everything on every plane. It is in all of this. And it was so stunning, so absolutely stunning to just see it as golden liquid light, the dancing light as the waters. And I lifted above that. And my mind became completely silent. And I was suddenly in the awareness that there is no other. Just perfect, silent existence. And that was completely satisfying. Completely satisfying. I have never felt, and I don't think any human being has ever felt completely satisfied. This is it. This is what satisfies. And my partner at some point during this said to me, "Are you talking to your guides?" Like she's trying to be. She's never done this before, and I didn't need her. All I needed was her just to say, "Go to where you were before you were born," and I knew I came from the divine. Like I had actually, I didn't say this in my story, and I was just telling it, but I heard myself say, "From a deep place of truth, I come from the divine." And that's what started the sun rising in my body. But she asked me at some point during this, "Are you talking to your guides?" And I said, I literally could like open my eyes and talk to her, even though this whole cosmic experience is happening. And when I opened my eyes to talk to her, I saw that light here. I saw this whole world as that ocean, this physical realm is that light. There's nowhere it's not.
Hmm.
Everything comes out of it. It's the substratum of all. And there was just beauty and complete, I want to say non-doership. This feeling that that's what does everything. That's the doer of all. It's the one telling the story right now. It's the one listening to the story right now. It's the impeller, the inner impeller. That was so clear to me. But I could completely talk to her as a non-separate, but just completely relate. And I said, shh. I just told her to shh. Like I had no words. I couldn't speak. And then I just said, I'll let you know when I'm ready. And then I kind of like closed my eyes and went back to that inner experience of being no other. It wasn't a feeling of we are one. There was not an experience of we. It was whole, complete, undifferentiated, perfect existence. And I knew this is what we're all looking for. This is what we're looking for in every pursuit of our lives. Looking for that woman or that man that's going to give it to you, that career, that position, that cup of coffee, that cigarette, that, whatever it is, I've certainly looked for all of those. That's been, you know,
We all have at
we've all
different
done
times, I
it.
think.
And there's nothing, I mean, my awareness was there's nothing wrong with that. That God is the thing in those that is satisfying. That the
Mhm.
divine is actually that the illusion is the form, but that the divine itself is every form. It's everything. And all it takes is for our consciousness to see that. Then it will satisfy you, including the person who's hurt you the most, uh, having a disease. Like I had the worst, for me, that diagnosis and kind of like the beginning of a problem in my body felt like the worst thing. I realize there's a lot worse things, but for my young self at that time, it felt like the absolute worst thing. It became the best thing. It became the best thing. It was God given. That's kind of what turned me to this profound experience of unity. And all I feel like all we have to do is recognize it and turn to that being that we all are and just recognize it. It has become every experience in this life. How we've all heard like everything is for you. It is. It is. And the way to heal is to let it impact you and transform you and surrender to it, and learn how to have space in yourself for it, no matter what it is, because the divine is in that, for us. And I knew that in that expanded state. I also knew my body was healed. I knew that. And I knew that that there's nothing more than this. Like I knew this is what my soul and every soul needs and wants, and it's our nature. And we aren't separate from it when we're incarnated. So I don't call this being on the other side. I call this being in a deeper state of awareness. Because I experienced it in my human body. I could open my eyes and see it. I was completely in my body. I wasn't on the ceiling looking down. I was seeing out of my eyes. But I was also kind of seeing 360. Like I could see I could see everything, around when I opened my eyes. So it's a very expanded consciousness. And it just takes focused stillness and intention. And we can access ourselves. It's the most natural state, and that is the healing. That is the healing state for anything. Is, we talked about root causes. Anything that's causing us pain or disease, illness, stress is the separation that we perceive. It's not real. The illusion of the separation from the divine, and what heals is healing the separation.
So, as a near-death experiencer, I have to say, like, one of my thoughts when you were talking is even when death comes for us, it's divine. I mean, if you sat with people who are dying and, I believe when it's your time, it's your time. When it's not, it's not. You're either going to find the healing, or it's a long healing journey or short healing journey, or it's your time. There's great beauty in death. There's incredible beauty for those who witness it, those who are there with you, that it's incredibly sacred. And I like to think we're bringing more of that sacredness back to death as near-death experiencers talk. Do you feel that way too, that the divine is in
Completely.
birth just as it is in death?
Completely. Yes, yes. And I've been very blessed to be with people that were close friends when they passed. To be with them and to help them across.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I'm fascinated with death because I feel like I experienced the deathless. And that's exactly what every near-death experiencer experiences, is the deathless, eternal, perfect, whole, complete love beyond human love. So, and that's real life.
What I appreciate about your story is, the honesty of being young and upset about the diagnosis. I was upset about things that happened after my near-death experience because I thought, well, I should be protected. I've touched the divine. I shouldn't have to deal with these things. And yet, we do get broken open by experiences here and connected to so many people. As you say, what did you learn about healing that you can share with others, like from the minor things, the irritants in life, the painful feet and neck, to the bigger, the big diagnosis that, there's so much intensity with such words, I don't even want to say them, but, big diseases.
Um, well, after that experience, I wanted to make sure I was healed because I'm a doubting Thomas.
Yeah.
um, and now I know it's not like you're healed. It's our life healing becomes creativity, and allowing the unique expression of divinity that comes through each of us to come through less and less inhibited. So really the exploration was, how am I distorting that? How am I blocking this beauty and this essence of who I am? And so I did a study at the Barbara Brennan School of Healing for 7 years. I'm an energy healer and personal process facilitator and a dean of the first year of studies at the Barbara Brennan School of Healing here in Minnesota. Um, because what we're doing is what you're asking. Um, I work with people and I work with myself to find how I'm being who I am not. Because when we're not being one with God, we're in our wounded consciousness. Like my experience is that incarnation involves taking a wound into our own psyche, into our own bodies, into our own life. People say they pick their parents. I mean, I remember that. A lot of people remember that. They kind of pick the journey because it develops qualities. It develops divine qualities in you. And the way that those qualities come through is you see through the illusion of your story of either being the hated one, the abandoned one, the controlled and invaded one, the betrayed one, or the rejected one. And there's very specific energetic defenses that we use and that we start to identify with. We start to identify with these energetic protections to protect ever being wounded like that again, to protect ourselves from hostility, rejection, abandonment, control and invasion. And we start getting triggered over and over and over again whenever our wounds get touched. And we transfer the story of the past when the wound happened onto life right now. And then we go, see, I told you so. See, it's life is doing that. I told you. This is, you can't trust anybody. If you were betrayed and then somebody, you see that, you see through your own filter and you kind of create reality from your wounded, limited self. And the work is to see that that's actually an illusion. Yes, that happened. It was part of our soul's journey, but we are so much more than that. And so going through the process of learning how to become undefended, how to stop protecting those wounds and distorting our energy consciousness, takes us through all the blocked pain that we've been avoiding in our system. And that pain is God-given. It's there to transform us back into who we really are and create, I want to say create more divine essence that only you can express. So that's what I meant by like letting life impact you, and rather than reacting, letting yourself go fully into the experience.
And so I've heard some people say you have a hurt area of your body to let it speak, all the things that, you're holding in, let that speak. Is there something you encourage people to do with minor things?
Mm-hmm.
I know the larger things probably take more time, but is there something, not always?
Well, so let me say this a different way. Anywhere you have pain, it's natural, right now in our level of consciousness to try to avoid it. Get as far away from it as you possibly can.
Yes.
That's what an energy defense does. It's a way to avoid it. And so the work that I do and the work that listeners can do now is to start to move towards it. So moving towards something it's going to evoke the fear that you're going to be hurt again in some way. And that's where we want to just witness the fear and stay with it. It's like becoming a container for whatever is here. And that's hard to do if you've never done it before. And working with a healer who's trained in this, I'm one of them. There's many people who are trained in this, to move toward the place of discomfort and just keep asking, what's here now? And allow the experience to come and then witness it and then stay with it. And again, say, what's here now? And the consciousness within it will reveal itself to you. It's just again and again moving toward the discomfort and the pain and touching it with, I want to say with love, but it's that same impersonal divine love that just sees it and holds it and is with it without any fixing or solving or intellectualizing and analyzing. It's just being present with it. And that is absolutely transformative. I've watched, people who have chronic pain in certain areas, oftentimes there's like many lifetimes stacked of traumas in their hip, and that's a common area for some people. And we just bring presence to that, and the memories will come through, and the tears will come, and we just stay with that, and that's where a healer can be really helpful, because I'm not going to react. I have developed that presence to just be with it, and it transforms itself as you go through the blocked pain and the blocked experience that you didn't let yourself really have, and it happens in like 90 seconds. It's super fast. And then the hip starts to heal, or whatever part of the body. So moving towards the thing that you absolutely don't want to move towards is the way.
Yeah, and finding, as you said, the root cause, the core is what I call it, and I
Yeah.
do a form of theta healing with people, and it is holding that space for people to find what is beneath the pain, what is the core. Sometimes it's unconscious, you described your mother and you merging in each other's hearts. I think those 0 to 7 years, like when we are first impacted by parents, give us so many unconscious programs, and that's often a beginning place of healing is all the things that we picked up in those years. So I think that first layer of your healing was fascinating, just fascinating.
Yeah. Well, and the relation, what I realized in that is she's actually in me.
Yeah.
And I'm in her. We're all in each other. And my mother has some mental health diagnoses. And so that's not going to change.
Yeah.
But inside of me is just love for her. There's still boundaries, and boundaries are love as well.
Mhm.
Um, but there's nothing in me that resents or hates or feels wounded anymore at all, by that on the relational level. Yeah.
So what do you do when people come in with a big diagnosis like yours and don't have as much experience with meditation? Like I'm curious how you help both chronic, the things that have been building up for a very long time, and then sudden diseases.
Well, whatever someone comes in with, we start there, because you probably know this. Everything is a hologram. Everything is in everything. So we just start with whatever you're bringing. So, and we move towards whatever you're feeling right now. So I do personal process as well as hands-on and energy healing on the healing table. But I start to create safety. When someone comes for the first time, you cannot do healing work unless you feel safe. It's a huge thing. And so we build safety, just by our relationship, and how we relate and how I relate with you. And I track the person. I can see and read energy fields. I have psychic abilities from all this. We all have it. I just learned to trust it, and we can all learn to do that. And I know everyone who comes to me actually knows. They know what's going on. And so I'm not taking power away from anybody by like reading them. I just use the things that I get to help them find it. And I can also respond to them in a healing way rather than a reactive way, which is also incredibly healing. So we just start with whatever is there. If someone is coming to me and they've just been diagnosed, like remembering a woman who was diagnosed with stage 4 rectal cancer, and she thought it was hemorrhoids, and she wouldn't go to the doctor. Because it was hemorrhoids for a long time, but it became much worse. So everyone's different. So just being with whatever is here right now, fear, anger, disbelief, and giving space for that process. And eventually we drop to, there's usually hard pain, and then we drop through the hard pain into the soft pain. There's ways to do that. And that starts to open you up to the experience and being transformed by it. And we do that, and usually things start coming through, but there's no way that we're like going, oh, here's the belief system that you hold that caused this problem. I don't do it that way because I don't see it that way, actually. I mean, yes, belief systems are a huge part of it. And yes, we do create our own reality from a certain point of view, but from a bigger point of view, the divine is doing everything. There is only one doer in this world, and so it's a dance. It's a dance of energy with the client or the person coming to me, and what they're presenting and what they need to go deeper in themselves for whatever is needed. It might be insight. It might just be needing to cry. It might be just getting back in their body because they're so freaked out. Everyone's different, and I trust them. I trust the divine in them, and I see it and I relate to that in them, and that helps the healing to start to happen in them. And then we go to the table, the healing table, and I work with all levels of your energy consciousness system to help release this light that permeates and heals us and is complete and whole, gets blocked through our own avoidance of life, of the pain of acting out our wounds. And so I can repair your chakras. I can work with relational traumas, past life traumas, aligning with divine will. There's like a bajillion things. Like everything exists in your energy consciousness system, including your intention and your life purpose and your deepest dimension, which is this core light. So what I do is I look for what is blocking that light, and then I help it. I help it to open where the person's ready. There's no forcing in that, and the personal process work beforehand already helps that to open a lot, and then we can go deeper on the table with it.
I
Does that make
understand.
sense?
No, it makes total
Yeah,
sense
yeah,
to me. And,
yeah.
sometimes when I talk to people's ancestors on the other side,
Mm-hmm.
do medium readings, I see this visual depiction of how people block the light, like see the globe, and I'll see like how people let the light in and how they block it. And most people let in more light than not. They may not be aware of it, but they do, and yeah, those who are blocked, are hurting, and I think that's the thing that, you mentioned, they're looking for it in other ways and not finding it. What do you say to people right now who look out across the planet though and don't have much hope and think, oh gosh, how can the light be in this? So many people are blocked from it. I see much hope from that perspective, that far away perspective, but when you're in it, it's challenging.
So what I say, I agree with you, is you want to turn towards that light. That's all it takes, is to turn towards it. You don't have to even know how to do that. But you take the focus off of the outside and you go into yourself and you say, okay, divine light, whatever word you want to use, universe, help. And it has to be sincere. And that's the change. That's the change that this situation is trying to make happen in us, is that turning toward the divine in surrender when everything is falling apart, when everything is being stripped away. I find the experience of devastation to be profoundly awakening. I'm not wishing that on anybody, but even in devastation, I think that's the closest to the divine I've ever been. When everything is stripped away, and I know I am completely dependent on this greater being. I have to just turn towards it and it responds. I can tell a story if you want to hear this. This is for people who need hope.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was a few years ago, I was grieving. I was grieving just a profound loss. And I was very alone in my grief. It was something that there was no one to hold this grief. And I'm a healer. I hold everyone's grief. I can be with this. I can be with whatever is in other people. It's hard to find someone who can do that for you. When you've done a lot of that training in yourself, you need somebody who can do a really high level for you. And the person that was my greatest confidant had just died. She wasn't the one I was grieving, but she's the one I would have gone to. So I knew this is divinely given, that my person is gone. And I am being completely swallowed up by a profound loss and grief that I did not see coming. And I would just cry all the time, and I couldn't stop. And I had to just allow it to come. So I had to turn to the divine because there is no person. So I went to I live by some really beautiful lakes that have walking paths around them, and then forests. I went to one of the lakes, my favorite lake, and it was really early in the morning. And I thought there was nobody there. And it was probably like 6 in the morning. I'm on the beach, it's summer, and I'm on my knees in the sand, wailing, because I think I'm in private. And I start saying, "Help me, just help me. I help everybody. You have to help me." I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. This is too much for me. I can't take it. Help me. And I just was weeping. And suddenly I hear a voice from the water. "Your grief is beautiful." And I went, oh my God. I'm like, what? And suddenly there was a man there. He wasn't there before. There was a man coming out of the water in swimming trunks, beard dripping, comes out, and he said, "I know how you feel." And I said, "I'm really embarrassed right now." And I said, "I thought I was alone." And he said, "Well, you're not alone. Would you like to sit down and talk?" And I said, "Actually, I would." I knew that's unlike me. I would never just tell a stranger, but I knew that was my help. He literally came out of the water. And
Wow.
there was a picnic table there. And I did not need a counselor. I needed someone who could help me go to the bottom of my grief and wail. And this man knew that. He put his hands on my shoulders and he said, "I understand your grief. I moved here to be with my grandchildren and they never call me." It's that kind of grief. And that was his grief. I don't know if that would be my grief, but he put his hands on my shoulders and he started singing. He started, this stranger that I'd met 3 minutes before. And the song was "Give Yourself to Love" by Kate Bush. And the other song was "We Shall Be Known." And the people who sing it is Mom Hughes. And the way he sang it, kind of in minor tones, like in like the minor key, and from his soul, I could connect to the turning of life and the grief and the birth and the death and the love and the loss, and that this is the great turning of the divine. And the way that he sang it, it literally went through my whole being. And I felt held and met in my depths. And that just came from an agonizing ask of help. And so if you are hopeless, if you are afraid, if you feel alone, if you pray from that your depth, that if you are open, that's more like let yourself be open. to the mystery. And there's always a fear that it won't come and you'll feel abandoned. I was already feeling beyond abandoned. So I was in that pain already. And that's what I mean. Like life will open you. If you can't
Mm.
pray, then ask the divine to help you pray. You know,
Yeah.
if you can't surrender, ask the divine, I don't want to surrender. So help me with that. You know, whatever, wherever you're at, ask for help. Turn towards the divine. And I'm not kidding, it comes every time. And it comes in ways you have to be ready to see it.
I
Let yourself see it.
I have heard this story from others, like not exactly this story, but
Yeah.
those moments of like you go into the
Yeah.
closet and you just get on your knees and go, I can't take it. You've got it. And then an awakening experience happens. Or, I think near-death experiencers are often, at a physical level at their most devastated. So, in those moments
Yeah.
before they're unconscious, I think there is a humility of having your body taken from you. There is this like, oh, I'm not in control, and it kind of opens you to that spiritual experience when you have that moment. But yeah, that ask and you will receive, that idea of earnestly, asking. There have been times since my near-death
Yeah.
experience when I've gotten on my knees too and just cried and said, I can't do anything more. I have to be shown the next way. I have to have this open for me. And then it just gets so easy. I'll feel the love come in and something that was so painful and so difficult in the next few moments becomes doable and then
That's right.
easy.
That's right. Well, this one, after this man kind of helped me and met me in my pain, I had many conversations with my, the divine self within. And I said, if this is what you want me to experience, I will. I will
Mm.
stop resisting it. And I will experience. I will grieve. I will let it have its way with me. And that was huge. That
Wow.
was that was that open. I want to say that that hollowed me in a way. Grief hollows you out in a way that you become holy. It's like hallowed. You
Mm.
become holy itself. There's a holy spaciousness in you for everything. Like you were saying, like if, when you die, there's a devastation in that,
Yeah.
and where much the material loss becomes a spiritual gain.
Yes. And no matter how ugly and painful and debilitating and how long the journey is, on a whole, near-death experiencers would do it again because the awakening is worth it. If that's the way we had to awaken, I wish for others that it's easier, through meditation and through asking. I think we tell these stories for that, but it's so worth it. I mean, I can't imagine my life without that. I'm sure you can't imagine your life without that awakening moment.
I know. And everything, I mean, there's like, we all have our own book that we could write. But
Yes.
I would not change anything. I mean, the things that I would change, I guess if I could change, would be ways that I hurt others. Um, but I do know that they are myself, and that forgiveness starts with self-forgiveness. But other than that, the choices and other things that I don't even feel like I made those anymore. Trisha, like this feeling of non-doership really stayed with me. And like in moments of agony and grief, there is a feeling of doership. And that's a little bit of a separation, like that I am the doer. But on a deeper level, I'm not the doer. Because like later on, when I had been on the beach crying and saying help, and the man came out of the water and helped me, he was like my angel in that moment. That was wonderful. And I thought that was it. But it kept going. Like I would
Oh.
like out of like I remember going, um, I was at home later that day, and I had said something to the universe like, can you just give me a sign? You know, just give me a sign, something. I need something. You know what I need. Just give me a sign. Um, and then like I got this idea to go to Whole Foods to get change, like to get quarters for something I needed quarters for. And I never do that. Like it was a machine at my job. And and when I so that idea was planted in my mind, and I went to Whole Foods and got $5 worth of quarters. And and the sign came when I was there, and I'm not going to say what it was, but an undeniable sign came there. And I'm like, who made did I go to Whole Foods? Who went to Whole Foods? Who thought that thought? Those are the questions to me to really be with, is who is doing it? I don't feel like it's my life anymore. I pop in and out of it, but more and more, I don't even know if I'm doing it. That the eye can just watch. It is being lived, and turning our focus, turning our awareness towards the doer of all, toward the indweller, towards the divine, to me, is it.
Sort of that idea. I've always liked the word light worker. It's not a perfect word, but it's like we're becoming light. The more we let that light in, the more we are that light, and it is us, and it's us letting it in, but yeah, it's God, it's the divine.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's in every cell of our body. It's on every plane of existence. Remember the old movies where you had like a projector with a white light and then the film went in
Yes.
front of it? Like there's that nothing happens without that light. And that to me is how I saw everything in my expanded state of awareness. It's like the light goes through like the story or the film and projects it into consciousness. But then you can get rid of the film, get rid of the movie film, the movie reel, and the light is just there. And that's that state of no other. Everything that the light makes possible on the screen is unreal. Just it ends and it's gone, and the light is still there. And that did everything.
Mhm.
you know
It's I'll end with this question, but you mentioned if you could go back, you might take away hurting others. Lately, I've wanted to go back to spend more time with grandparents. And it's funny that that man said that, that
mm,
sometimes our grandparents are our guides on the other side. And so the moments we didn't get to spend with them, asking them things, that's what I feel coming from the other side. And that's what I kind of imagine to help my own healing. So I would say, our grandparents still can connect with us from the other side. And that's part of that, is they're not that eternal part of them can still fuel us.
that's beautiful.
And I wonder, I wonder if you have any sense of continuing to be helped by angels and guides and loved ones on the other side, or is that not something that comes in with your
Oh,
psychic abilities?
every day.
Oh, okay, good.
Oh yeah, every day. Usually, my people that I work with, um, oftentimes they sense. That's what I love about the work that I do, is that we can vibrate at the level of consciousness that our ancestors and guides exist on. And so they oftentimes will just say, "Oh, my grandmother was here. She was holding my hand." These are people that don't have psychic ability. They don't think they have psychic ability. We all do. And,
Yes.
and but guides also come. And there was a woman that almost every day. There's a vibrational level of surrendering to divine will, where you can access all the guides that are completely aligned with divine will, and they come through and do healings through my hands. I feel them come through my arms, and they do healings for the client. So I don't even know what they're doing.
Awesome.
I align with divine will, and then they come through and do it. But ancestors, we've done lots of healings between like mothers and daughters after the mother has died. The mother comes, and the person experiences it themselves. Yeah. So I'm
Mm.
not, I can channel, but I just think it's way more powerful when the person gets it themselves. And that happens a
Yeah,
lot. Not every time, but it happens. So
very
healing.
cool.
So healing.
Well, Caprina, thank you so much for this conversation. I feel like we could keep talking, but but this is a good stopping place, and I will drop your links and anything for others to contact you with. But thank you so much for sharing so openly.
Oh, it's a pleasure to talk to you, Trisha. Thank you for sharing your experience as well and encouraging others and giving a platform for others. Thank you so much.